Hello, and welcome to today's Achievers webinar. My name is Richard, and I'll be in the background answering any WebEx technical questions. If you experience technical difficulty at any time during this WebEx event, please submit your technical issue in the Q&A panel, and I will assist you. You may also contact our WebEx technical support at 1-866-779-3239. Please note that as an attendee, you are a part of a larger audience today. However, due to privacy concerns, the attendee list is not displayed. All attendees will be in a listen-only mode for the duration of today's call, and as a reminder, this call is being recorded. We will be holding a Q&A session at the conclusion of today's presentation. You may ask a question at any time throughout the event by entering into the Q&A panel to the lower right of your screen. Today's presentation will also contain short videos. To hear the video, please ensure that your computer speakers are turned up. The quality of the video is dependent upon your internet connection, so please try to close all unnecessary programs to increase the video quality. And with that, we invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy today's presentation. I'd like to introduce you to your speaker for today, Eric Tremundi, author, speaker, and entrepreneur.
Great. Richard, well, listen, thanks so much for the introduction, and hello to the guests out there today on the West Coast. Good morning. In the middle and east side of the country, good afternoon. For those who have been with me before, thank you for coming back. For those who are new, thanks for tuning in. I want to say before we get started a thank you to the sponsor for today's event, which is, of course, Achievers. Achievers has been a great partner in allowing me to bring some of my information to you, and today is no different. What Achievers also allows me to do is to be a little bit flexible in how I like to deliver my webinars. For those who were with me last month, I asked you to do something that you probably hadn't been asked to do before, and that was to turn all of your notifications on. Turn your vibration on, turn your ringer on, turn your computer monitor on, leave your door open, and see how distracted we were. Because I think that when we're looking at employee recognition, I think it starts by recognizing our behaviors, our patterns, and our habits. Today, I'm not going to ask you to do that. I'm going to ask you to turn all of your notifications off, to put your phone away. But what I'm going to ask you to do today is to treat this a little different than you might treat a typical webinar. I don't have text-loaded slides. I don't have, the 34 things you should take away. Today, I've got 3 things that I want you to take away when we're looking to optimize culture. And so I treat this next 45, 55 minutes almost like a podcast. Feel free to close your eyes. Feel free to relax. I know that we're more distracted now than we've ever been before. And so take this as permission from me to give yourself an hour and allow me to walk you through something that I think we'll be able to take some value from, we'll be able to implement right away, that won't cost a dime. That's one of my big policies. We're not about big spending and big change. We're just about little changes here. My whole brand, my whole theme is around 1 degree shifts, the little things that we can do to build an intentional future. And so today, let's enjoy our time together and let's dive right in. Today I want to talk about building an optimized culture. And what does that mean? Well, that means a culture that's right for the people that are in our places of work. We know that a universal best culture doesn't exist, and it's time to tell a different story. And where this came to be for me was a personal adventure that I was on. And this story happened about 5 years ago when I was sitting in my office. And on my left, I had Ben Cannon. He was a stand-up comedian, an absolute people person, and he was the vice president of student life. On my right, I had my friend Connor Brown. He was, that type A, captain of the hockey team, could never take no for an answer kind of guy who, you'd love to have on your back, when things went south, because he was just always there for you. And he was the vice president external. And myself, I was vice president operations and finance. And together we represented the University of Calgary. I'm a Canadian student union. We had a $25 million budget. We were 3 of the 5 student executives, and we were responsible for the fees and activities of 25,000 students. Now, we got a knock at the door. And this knock at the door came from a girl wearing a Red Bull backpack. I think many of us have seen the girls walking around handing out free product. And, of course, she gave us a Red Bull each. And, we're looking at each other thinking, what's the catch here? There's got to be something going on. She gave us the Red Bull, and she also handed us a one-page piece of paper. And on this piece of paper, it said, "Can you make it?" Now, Ben, he's the comedian. He's a bit of a punster. He said, there's got to be a connection. Can you make it? As he cracks open the can of Red Bull. Sure enough, there was. And so I asked her, I said, what's the pitch? She said, okay, the pitch is this. We want you to travel from London to Berlin, 3 of you, in 7 days. Okay, tell us more. She said, there will be 100 teams of 300 people from 40 different countries in an amazing race-style journey, but it's going to be more intricate and crazier than you'd ever imagine. We said, why? She said, because you will not have any cell phones, any internet connectivity, or any way to communicate outside of your team. You will not have prearranged accommodation. You will not have prearranged transportation. And what we're going to do is we're going to give you a list of addresses scattered all across the continent and 24 Red Bull at the start line in London. And your job is to trade these Red Bull for food, for transportation, and accommodation as you make your way across a continent that you've never been to before. Oof. Okay. I look at Ben on my right, I look at Connor on my left, and I said, what do you think, fellas? Should we try and do it? He said, of course, why not? Let's give it a try. So I asked, I said, what does it take for us to be in this competition? How do we compete, and what happens if we win? She says, okay, we need a 1-minute video, and if you win, if you make it to Berlin in 7 days, we'll throw the biggest party you've ever been to with the other teams that made it across the continent. So we said, sure, let's give it a try. And I want to show you the video that we submitted that weekend. So they loved it. I guess that's what I'll say. And we were then sent to London on an all-expense paid trip by Red Bull to start on this journey of a lifetime. Now you're probably wondering where this is going. And let me tell you that before the election, Ben and Connor and I, we weren't really friends. And instead, we were just colleagues. I mean, did I know Connor before? Yeah, I knew him through a friend of a friend. Ben I'd never met before. But we were aligned now. We were a team. And just to be clear, I think this is how we build teams. We build teams based on our desired outcome, which for us was to get to Berlin, and an alignment in skill set or qualities. If you're hiring a receptionist, he, she, they need to have a certain set of qualities. If you're hiring a UX and UI designer, they need to have a certain set of qualities. If you're hiring an account manager, they need to have a certain set of qualities. And that's what we did. And what I found is that it wasn't enough, because we got to London. We were excited, don't get me wrong. We were there on the River Thames. Picture this: green grass, early April morning. We're on the River Thames. The beautiful Red Bull Arches there. Tower Bridge is off in the distance. There are 320-something-year-olds that are ready to embark on this journey of a lifetime, and we're excited. The gun goes off and the race starts, and we have no idea which way France is. no idea. And so we're running around like 3 guys with chickens with our heads cut off, right? And we have no idea how to get to where we're going. So what do we default to do? We start to ask who we thought were civilians. But the problem with downtown London, a city of 4.5 or 5 million people, so those who are downtown are likely tourists, like we are. Nobody's driving downtown who came from work. They're all on public transit or bikes. And the taxis would never take three guys and drop them off somewhere, let alone at the edge of the country and trying to get to friends. So as Ben and Connor and I tried to ask our way out of the country or even the city or even just downtown, we really struggled, and we started to climb over each other. We didn't give each other time and space, and when Connor was trying to go get food, I would try and tell him how to do it better. I'm sure it was well intended, but I didn't give him time and space. When Ben tried to make a trade and give Red Bull for food or accommodations or travel, Connor would say, no, you have to do it this way. And we didn't give each other the time and space. So our team immediately started to break down. We didn't have that sense of safety. We didn't have that sense of belonging. So we're sitting finally at a gas station. We traveled about 600 yards in 4 hours. And I find a piece of cardboard and write France with a black Sharpie as we're trying to get to the cliffs of Dover, when finally Rick and his son, Scout, picked us up. That was something we misheard. His son's name wasn't Scout. His name was Jonathan, and it turns out he was a Boy Scout. So they said, we'll give you a ride to Dover tonight if you come and give a presentation to our 35-year-old or 37-year-old Boy Scouts. Sure enough, we got into this tiny car and hauled our way into the backcountry of London. We pulled up to a barn where, sure enough, 35 screaming 7-year-old boys were there, and we gave them a presentation about what we were up to. We also gave them some Red Bull just as a courtesy, and that was a bad idea. Don't give a bunch of 7-year-olds little sips of Red Bull. They get hyper very quickly. Anyways, we then got our Scouts badge of honor. We learned the salute, and off we go to Dover. It's now 10:30. We get to the ferry terminal, and the last ferry leaves at 10:20. So 3 guys. It's about 54 degrees out. Raining in April in eastern England, and we're shivering, huddled under over a cover until the next ferry leaves at 6:30 in the morning. The team was hungry at this point. They were stressed. We were getting on each other's nerves. We were simply miserable, if I could say it. And when we snuck onto the ferry at 6:30 and made it to France, we had a whole new set of obstacles that we couldn't have possibly predicted. Anyone wants to guess what the biggest obstacle we encountered in France was? It's that they speak French. And even though we're Canadians, we could not speak French. So now, not only did we have a country that we hadn't been to, but we had a language that we hadn't been to. Now, I'm going to pause here again, too, because when we look at the future of work, we're really good at planning for 5 and 10 years. We've got our strategic plan. We've got our strategic initiative. And then my favorite line that Mike Tyson has ever said is that everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face. And this is, I think, the best way I can start to look at and encompass the future of work, is that while sometimes the best plans are laid out, we can never expect or anticipate some of the punches that life will throw at us. And we didn't expect that. I mean, our 5-year plan, metaphorically, I guess, was to make it to Berlin. But we didn't consider languages along the way. We didn't consider a lot of the little difficulties that set us back along the way. And as a result, our team started to crumble. We made it to the train station. We did everything we could to get on the train in France, to get up to Belgium and then over to Germany. The trains kept coming and they kept leaving, and we were not on them. At this point, I said, okay, fellas, if we're not out of here in the next 12 hours, I'm calling it. I'm going to find some phone, and I'm going to call this in, and we say we're done. There were, at this point, there were tears. They may have been mine. Full transparency. I'm not going to confirm or deny that, but it was a tough go, until we saw the Swedish team. The Swedish team. Now, for any of you who watched The Simpsons, the Swedish team, when they walked in, was kind of like the Simpsons theme song when the clouds part. It's kind of like, ah. It was Brian, Rebecca, and Amanda, and Brian had his arms over Rebecca and Amanda. He had this confidence in his step. He had this swagger in his step. He had a smile on his face. And, they're looking at us, and we're just 3 guys sitting on the curb, really mad and ready to call it in. And when we looked at them, we said, "Hey, what's your trick? You don't even look like you're in the same competition. What are you doing?" And Brian took one look at us, and he said, "Look, guys, You're a team, sure. You're a group of people that come together to achieve a common goal. Yeah, that's what we were. We were a group of people. Like I said, I didn't know Ben and Connor all that well before our term. We were colleagues, right? But he said, what you're missing is this sense of community. What you're missing is a sense of fellowship with others. You're missing that sense of belonging, psychological safety. He said, let me ask you, do you feel like you're safe with these guys? Can you take risks? I said, well, physically I feel safe. These two big guys are with me. I don't feel like I'm going to get hurt. He said, but can you take a risk? I said, no, I'm terrified about these guys jumping on my back. Truthfully, I'd probably do the same to them too. I haven't given them time and space. He said, you guys need to figure out how to become a better community, how to care more for each other, and get to where you're going next together. I'm going to pause here again. Deloitte now says that 71% of employees in America now are looking for another job or are approached. We are in an absolute employees market right now where unemployment in America hasn't been this low since World War II. In many reasons, in many aspects, that's a good thing. But as we're trying to build rock-solid communities moving forward, as we're trying to optimize our culture, and as we're trying to thrive in the future, this proves to be quite difficult. Now, we also know, as HR executives, that engagement really is low. We're talking fully engaged, 16 to 17%, according to ADP. We're talking mostly or fully engaged, 33, 34%. And this is low. And here's what happened. I think we've been building the wrong things. We've been building teams. We've been building groups of people that are aligned in the goal, and the mission, and what we stand for, sure. But we're missing that sense of community. Now, I want to suggest that, again, skills and requirements aren't not important. They're incredibly important. They always will be. And in many cases, they're not the differentiator. Okay? We can be hiring an account manager at Fortune 500 or a small nonprofit that does a very similar job but lives a totally different life. And if we align people based on the experience that we have at work, then I believe we can truly optimize culture. See, what I found is that what we were doing is we were fitting in. And we were being somewhere where we wanted to be, but the others didn't really care one way or the other. But see, a community is rooted in the sense of belonging. It's being somewhere where you want to be and they want you. Now, look, we know that we spend more time with our colleagues and coworkers at work than we do awake with our family and our friends at home. And if we don't focus on building community, I believe we're going to start to fall behind if we haven't already. So here's what happened. Ben and Connor and I, we took some time. And by some time, I mean an hour, which all of us can afford to do, with our team of 3. And to be clear, you might be representing an organization of thousands, but your team of your direct reports might be 3, 4, 5, 10, or 12. So we took our time. We took an hour. And we said, okay, fellas, how can we start this? Not from scratch. How can we build from where we're at? And our solution was simple. We decided we're going to delegate. We're going to delegate and support and trust each other. So Ben, the comedian, was responsible for food. That's what he wanted to do. That's what he thought he could do best. Great. Connor, the negotiator, thought accommodation was his forte. Sure, got it. Myself, transportation. That's going to be what I'm after. And we're going to support and trust each other. We're going to give time and space. You can try anything you want. If you fail, we've got your back. And if you succeed, we're celebrating with you onto wherever we go next. And when we made this shift from just being a team, being something deeper, to being a community, I have a hard time explaining what happened next because it was almost miraculous, and I don't say that word lightly. Ben, that evening, managed to trade 3 Red Bull for a 3-course meal and a vodka. Connor befriended someone who lived at a university. They gave us a ride to the university dorm. We had blankets, we had beds, we had a full, it was almost a party that they threw for us once we told them our story. And I managed to get us on the next bullet train that eventually got us to Cologne and then to Hamburg. What happened in Hamburg was incredible because we met one of the senior directors of the train station, and he got to really liking our story. And he said, okay, fellas, I'm going to make a couple calls, and I think you'll be on your way. See, in the first day, 24 hours, we traveled 120 miles, and we had, well, about 1,400 to go in the next 5. But what he did is he came back with a map with things on the list, or things written down, that he said, if you meet with this person at this time, they've already been instructed to let you on the train, you're going to head down to Prague. From Prague, you'll get an overnight VIP sleeper car to Paris, and from Paris, you can go have a nap by the Eiffel Tower, which we did. You can come back to Berlin that night, overnight. We'll feed you, and you can sleep in one of the cars, and you'll be able to walk across the finish line fully rested. We gave him a couple of Red Bulls, said thanks, and forever had the incredible journey of a lifetime. See, again, in the first day, we traveled 120 miles. Had we not made this shift to community and just focused on team and not each other, I'm confident that we wouldn't have made it. But on the final day, with Brian, Rebecca, and Amanda, Ben, and Connor, we ended up traveling 2,100 miles because it was farther than just the distance it took to get from London to Berlin because of the detours and the stops that we made along the way. We traded 124 Red Bull, and we had an absolute journey of a lifetime, all because we made this shift from team to community. Now, this shift is small, and that's what I want to get across today, is that I've done a lot of research on the future of work, and I've realized there are 2 things that people hate. Number 1 is change, and number 2 is the way things are. So my approach to the future is iterative. It's small, it's tiny, it's agile. It's so small that at times I don't even think we can see it. I call it a 1-degree shift approach, okay? We made a shift deep in our guts to say a team isn't good enough anymore. We need a community, and we need to define both so that we know exactly what language we're speaking and how we can move forward. This 1-degree shift, it actually isn't just what helped us in Europe. It's what the British cycling team used as well. See, in 2002, Sir Dave Brailsford was assigned to the British cycling team. And at that time, the team had been on the podium one time in the 76-year history that the cycling team had been to the Olympics. Things had to change. And when Sir Dave Brailsford came to the team, he realized it was kind of in shambles and that he had a lot of work to do. So there were 2 options that he could have taken. Number 1, he could have said, scratch everything, we're starting over. And I think we do that a lot in our workplaces too. We see that something's broken and we want to say, hey, let's start over. Meanwhile, everyone who's there working hard, trying their best, is felt kind of out to dry. So Sir Dave Brailsford took the second approach. He said, I'm going to take this 1-degree approach, this 1% approach. I'm going to make little changes over and over and over again and see what happens. See, what he realized is that his cyclists were sick too often. Not always sick, but sick too often. Frankly, anytime they're sick was too often. So the first thing he did is he brought a surgeon in and taught them how to wash their hands and changed their handshaking policy so they moved to fist bumps. Less days sick, less days recovering, more days at 100%, and more days on the bike. He realized that the cyclists didn't all sleep at the same temperature. So he optimized each of their rooms by just changing the thermostat and finding out where they slept best. Better sleep, more rested, better time on the bike. One of the other things that he did is he realized that the bikes mechanics were compromised. They were dirty, they were breaking too often, and when he looked at the maintenance truck, he saw that there was dust collecting on the floor. What did he do? 1-degree approach. He said, I'm going to paint the bottom of the truck white so that we can see when dust is collecting. See, 3 tiny little things of the example, and trust me, he did many, that allowed them to change the direction that their team went, to optimize their experience, and to allow them to try things they'd never tried before. The result? Well, in 2008, they won 7 out of 10 gold medals. They thought it might be a fluke, so they brought him back. 2012, 7 out of 10 again. This happened with the Paralympic team as well. 7 out of 10 gold medals. Incredible, incredible, incredible. At this time, Sir Dave Brailsford left the British cycling team, and went to the Tour de France team. of course, most grueling cycling race in the world. Before 2012, they'd won never. And since 2012, they've won 8 times. This 1 degree approach is effective. It helps with change management, and it helps us to optimize our culture because, as I mentioned, we're entering a talent crisis right now, which for people who are employees can be great. I mean, you might be able to take a signing bonus or something somewhere else. You may be getting a call right now from somebody else who wants you to join their team. But what I've realized is if we're going to optimize our culture, people have to stop thinking that the grass is greener on the other side. People have to realize that where they are right now is where they need to be because the numbers are staggering. I was working with Kronos down in Orlando a couple of weeks ago, and they said that the average job right now for a Fortune 500 company will get 250 resumes for every job posting that goes out. Individuals now that are looking at the job market will apply to an average of 70 different places to work, knowing that 1 in 50 of them leads to an interview and 1 in 10 leads to a job. These numbers are staggering. Why is that? Well, here's what one of my theories is. I think that what's happening now is that people are looking at good, great, best cultures, and they're trying to apply to something that's great. Who wouldn't? And that's actually what I did too, without realizing what it was that I was doing. So I want to share with you the Fortune Best 100 companies to work for in 2019. Number 1 is Hilton. Best place to work in America. Employee rated. Employees love it there. But this is what an office might look like. And by office, I say that loosely. This is what work might look like. You know, you might be a bellhop, you might be a valet, you might be working in these rooms, you might be working at the front desk, and their employees love it. And hey, I say congratulations to Hilton. I say congratulations to everyone who's on that list. You might be in your state list, you might be on the Fortune list, on the Forbes list. If you are there, a sincere congratulations from me, because it takes a lot of work. The second best place to work is Salesforce. And this might be what an office looks like at Salesforce. In fact, it is. I pulled it directly from the website. And what I want to suggest is that the people that work at Hilton wouldn't necessarily want to work at Salesforce. The people that work at Salesforce wouldn't necessarily want to work at Hilton. This idea of a best culture is a bit of a paradox. It's a bit misleading because I might love to work at Hilton and you might hate it, and that's fine. But until we actually optimize our culture, meaning until it's best for who we're serving or who we're employing or the communities are that we're trying to establish and develop, I think we're missing the mark. So why is that? Well, when we look at the job description today, I pulled this from a Fortune 500 company. I said, okay, well, here's what it says. It says, here's the skills, here's the experience, here's more skills that we need, and here's the conditions, just in case something doesn't go right. And I'm thinking, okay, how do we possibly know the community that we're signing up for in these job descriptions? I even took it one step further. I called Indeed, job posting site, and I said, hey, Indeed, as if that's who picked up the phone. Hi, Indeed. Hey, Indeed, how many words is the average job description? They said between 250 and 300 words. So I hope you, like me, are like picking your jaw up off of the desk right now and realizing that, wait a second, how do we possibly know what we're signing up for in 250 to 300 words? What I want us to realize today is that we don't sign up for a job anymore. We sign up for a life. And the job becomes the vehicle that we use to drive through it. It's not something that we sign up from 9 to 5 to do anymore. It's the life that we sign up for. And I'll unpack that a little bit. It influences the events that we attend, what we do on the weekends, the amount that we travel, the amount of time that we spend with our family, the conversations that we have, the golf courses that we play, the games that we go to or we don't go to. All of it matters. And it's impossible in 250 to 300 words to understand the community that we're signing up for. On top of that, part of these 250 to 300 words talks about the keg and the ping pong table and the foosball table. Well, my friend who's never played foosball or ping pong before is sober and is allergic to dogs and would rather work in isolation, doesn't find this to be all that good of a perk. So what's happening now is we're overselling these great places to work and these great cultures by hoping that people trust us. What I'm calling this is kind of the Disneyland effect. So if I could, I'm just going to show you real quick what happens when Disneyland, the beauty of live, thank you for being patient, is Disneyland will do this too. Disneyland will sell that they've got the happiest place to work. And if I could, Richard, I might just get you to play that second video for me if you could.
Remember, you'll need to switch to by the top and going to and choosing the video. I can't move the presenter follower or delete the video.
Great. So I just wanted to show you this real quick. Disneyland often promotes himself as being the happiest place on earth. I want to show you this video from little Mila.
Everywhere I look, it's like white. Because it's this mountain. Apparently, it's tiny. You can't go in spaces. You want to see Christmas? Guess what? And it was like, it's not even one.
See, the goal today was to have a little bit of fun. And if I can offer something, what I would suggest is that this video is basically how we look at the modern job descriptions today, too. We promise to be this great inclusive culture, which in many cases we are. But if we go back to Hilton and Salesforce, a great place at Hilton might be toxic for somebody that works at Salesforce. And so if we're going to optimize our workplace culture, we have to tell a better story as to what it is that makes our community thrive. See, I saw this article that said, take a look at 7 of Chicago's sleekest tech offices. And I called them and I said, hey, how has this helped your talent attraction? And one of them said, hey, you know, our applicants have gone up 200%. Oh, that's awesome. How has this changed your engagement or your tenure? And she said, well, it hasn't. I said, can I take a guess why? She said, sure. I said, because you're talking about the ping pong table here, the pool table, the TV, the cool floor, the air hockey table in the back left, but you haven't talked about what happens behind that wall on the right. She said, yeah, I think you're right. See, perks and benefits attract talent, but community and experience keeps it. I really want us to know that. And so what we did is we built a tool that quantified workplace culture. We put numbers behind the employee experience so that we could help organizations, communities tell their story more effectively. We didn't want 250 people applying to your job. We want 25 because so many of them would start to proactively understand that, hey, that's not a fit for us. So we quantified that employee experience and allowed people to tell a different story. And what I want to share with you today is that the future of work is not something that we fall into. It's something that we create. Our community is unique to us, and we get to create the experience that we want for our people. I think this is so important. So today I want to share 3 shifts, 3 little 1-degree shifts that I think we can make to double down on community and to truly optimize our workplace culture. Are we ready to go? I hope so. The first shift that I want you to make is to focus on who you're attracting and not what you're attracting. And I alluded to this earlier, but so often are we attracting a position and rarely are we attracting an individual. Let me give you a sports example. Sometimes we're attracting a point guard. That's what that person is, not who they are. Sometimes we're looking for a defenseman. That's what that person is, not who they are. Maybe we're even looking for a midfielder. That's what that person is, not who they are. And at work, we do this all the time. We're looking for an accountant because that's what that person can do, but it's not who that person is. So I was in Philly 3 weeks ago doing an event there, and I just I wanted to take a look. I asked, how many accountants, LinkedIn, how many accountants are there in the greater Philadelphia area? Turns out 37,603. And that's what these people are, okay? They are accountants, and they're probably pretty good accountants. They're respectable. We appreciate them. They're highly educated. They're trained. They're a crucial asset to our team. And who these people are as individuals is going to vary significantly. What these people or how these people live from place to place will vary significantly. I mean, just in Philadelphia, you could be an accountant for the 76ers, for the Eagles, for the city of Philadelphia, for a nonprofit organization, probably work at one of the Salesforce or Hilton if you wanted to as an accountant. And what I want to suggest is that what these people do is very similar from place to place, but who they are and how they're treated and the life that they live, even as an accountant, is going to vary significantly. And so if we want to attract and build a community, we have to focus on who these people are, not just what they do and what their title says. This blew me away that 49% of all job postings by the S&P 100 companies in 2018 were for just 39 roles. So 1 in 2 job postings by S&P 100 companies in 2018 were for just 39 roles. So we might be looking for that executive assistant, for that HR manager, for that marketing director. And again, that's what these people are. But who they are and how they fit within our community is more important now than it's ever been before, because what's going to happen is myself as a marketing director, I'm going to see that I want to work at one of the S&P 100s. And they're all hiring for the same job with all of the job descriptions reading exactly the same. A suggestion? Let's look at video job descriptions. Let's look at office tours. Let's start to understand and articulate what makes us us so that we can truly attract and retain people that want to be a part of the community that, hey, you've probably already established. How can we tell that story better? I'll give you one more example. My friend Emma broke up from her boyfriend 2 years ago. She was one of those like hiking, get outside millennials. He was one of those like Xbox and Netflix kind of millennials. So it didn't work for them. Emma got out for 65 hikes that year and loved being outdoors. But what did she do when she was single? She turned to online dating. A lot of us turned to online dating. It's not a bad thing, but that's what she did. And she was looking for what? She was looking for a male roughly her age, okay? And when she started scrolling, this is what she saw. She saw males roughly her age. That's what they were. But she didn't know who they were. And after failed date after failed date after failed date, she came to me and she said, I'm flustered. I'm frustrated. I can't find Mr. Right. I said, Emma, you love hiking. Go to the hiking club. Find out who you love, not just what. Fast forward 18 months. They just got engaged last month, her and the president of the hiking club. Why? Because she stopped focusing on just what she was attracted to and she started looking for who she was attracted to. I think we do this all the time. We need an account director. That's what we need. So we're just going to hope for as many account directors as possible, play the numbers game, and hopefully find the right one. Find out who your community is. Go there. Fill the top of the funnel with people who are aligned in some of the things that you like to do and what your community likes to do and how your team and community likes to function. Stop focusing on what and start focusing on who. Just because we're short on time, I'm going to skip that and go straight into the second shift that I wanted to make today. The second shift I want you to make today is to truly plant your flag. When I look at the idea of a flag and I look at the world that we live in today, we're looking at about 195 countries. Each one of these countries has a distinct, unique flag. They represent the people, the culture, the land that they're on, and it's done with pride and intention. Within each of these 195 countries are states, provinces, counties, regions, all that, again, have a unique flag. Within these states, provinces, and counties are cities, are communities, are various groups that, again, have their unique flag that allows them to be identified by something. Now, the thing is, I'd like to think that our brand is our flag. But what I want us to shift to, especially from a talent attraction and retention standpoint, is to have our community be our flag. How is our community unique? Why are we proud of it? What is the claim that we can stake in the ground that is ours? And how can we do that with pride, with intention, and with confidence? I want you to truly plant your flag today. And one of the companies that I admire most that's done this is Zappos. Now, Zappos, many of you will know, and maybe there's someone from Zappos on the call today. Zappos has created a very unique culture. They've planted their flag, and they're proud of it. Hey, congratulations to them. I think it's wonderful. And what I want you to do, or what I want to show you today, is what it's like to see what it's like for Zappos and how they've planted their flag. Give me 2 seconds as I shift over. There she is again. And we're going to go to here, and I'm going to show you what it's like in Zappos.
Let's talk about work-life separation.
Okay, so that's a quick sneak peek at Zappos, and I know many of you likely in the positions that we are today know quite a bit about Zappos, but what I want to just ask you, and there's no polls or anything today, I think that takes too much time. Would you want to work at Zappos? And the answer is likely yes or no, and there's nothing in between. See, myself, I'm not caught in a 10-mile radius of that place. I mean, many millennials, and I'm going to box this, many millennials are supposed to like the streamers and the shake weights and the antlers and the ferns and everything else. And for me, that's an absolute no. You know, I look at this place, and I would never apply to Zappos because I know I couldn't get any work done. I don't want to be a part of that environment. And here's what I say, perfect. And that's why I love Zappos so much, because they've got this like heck yeah or no culture. They have planted their flag in the ground, and they say, this is what we are. You know, they're so adamant about their culture that they'll offer employees $2,000 to quit in the first 3 months if there's not a good fit, because they're so intentional about planting that flag and standing out for what's right for them. So what I would invite us to do is to treat our community like cilantro. And that's not a typo. And again, I'm not doing polls, but I just want you to think of cilantro for a second, because cilantro is about as polarizing as it gets. It's either yes, absolutely, or no, I've got a soapy taste in my mouth, and I'm the soapy taste in my mouth. I want you to treat our workplace culture like black licorice, where it's like, yes, I love black licorice, or no, I hate it. I want us to treat our workplace culture like pineapple on pizza. Some of you are thinking, absolutely, that belongs there. And I'm thinking, get that pineapple off my pizza. I want to treat our workplace culture like dipping your French fry in your milkshake. And maybe there's a couple hundred people on here today who are attending, of which 6 of you have this ear-to-ear grin on your face because you love doing that. You're crazy, and I love you for it, because I could not dip my French fry in my milkshake. And what I'm getting at is that we need to treat our communities with more intention. We need to plant our flag, because if we're going to optimize our culture, we have to understand what makes it unique in the first place. We have to have that almost visceral reaction where people don't apply to 70 different jobs anymore because they appreciate your logo or they appreciate your brand. What we need to better understand is the communities that people are signing up for. Another example of a company that's done this well is Nike. I'm not going to show you the example because you've already seen it, the Colin Kaepernick commercial where Nike sided with Colin. And I'm not taking a stand on whether that's right or wrong. That's not what I'm here to talk about. What I'm here to say is that Nike planted their flag in the ground. A lot of people hated it. Maybe some of you hated it. They covered their swooshes. They burned the product. They cut the swooshes off their socks. And hey, my question is, did you still wear the socks? Beside the point. People hated this move, but enough people loved it. People quit the company. People lined up outside the door of the company to be hired because they started to plant their flag and better identify components of their community. And that's what I want us to do today. I want us to discover your heart. What are the habits that happen in your community on a daily basis? What are the artifacts? What are the physical things that your team comes around that happens on a daily basis? What are the rituals? What happens when someone's hired? What happens when someone's let go? What happens when you crush a sales target or you finish a project? What happens when you go over budget? What happens when you miss the sales target? What happens, and how do we treat people so that we can help proactively identify whether this is going to be a good fit or not? Finally, what are the traditions? You celebrate holidays. What happens every third Friday in the summer? What happens if you've got a sports team that's made it to the final? What happens if you're in Colorado and it snows 15 inches last night? Is there a snow day? These things are important because it starts to say something bigger than just what we do. It starts talking about who we are. I think that can't be understated. So I'm just going to leave this here for a second. I don't have anything to sell on my website, but if you want resources, take a screenshot of this, take a picture of this. Just go to my website, /HRE, and you'll be able to download some free resources today to understand the heart, the identity, and more of these community pieces. You can work on them by yourself, with your team. If you want any help, I'm happy to help you with that as well. But erictremonti.com/HRE, and you can have some free resources that are there for you. The second thing that I wanted you to do today is to plant your flag. First of all, understand what your flag looks like, what your community and components are, and then truly plant your flag with pride. The third thing that I want you to do is to give everyone a paintbrush. If we're going to truly optimize culture, everyone has to feel like they're contributing. Everyone has to feel like they're moving that needle forward. Everyone has to feel like they matter. And this summer, when I went to a wedding with my girlfriend, my friends Farhan and Tahira had this paint by numbers art installation where literally everyone in the wedding was given a paintbrush, and we would be able to contribute to their night by painting in one of the numbers on their faces. Now they've got this hung up in their living room, and it's something that their whole wedding group created together. I thought it was beautiful, and we all felt like we mattered. See, when we give everyone a paintbrush, when we, in the Europe situation, when we delegated our tasks, and Ben could contribute in his way, Connor could contribute in his way, I could contribute in my way, we all felt like now we're moving the needle forward. Now that we feel that we matter, everyone was contributing, and it all made a difference. See, when I look at something like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I look at all of us, basically, I mean, at the most basic level, need food, shelter, water, warmth, rest, air, clean air to breathe. Then comes a sense of security and safety, and then a sense of belongingness, love, and feeling of contribution. And when I look back at the Red Bull example, and I look at many of our teams today, our physiological needs are met, but many of us don't feel psychologically safe. Many of us don't feel like we belong. In fact, 40% of America feels alone right now. And numbers suggest that number may be well higher. So when we look at building the sense of community and allowing everyone to contribute and feeling that they're a part of something bigger, that's when we can see that our best days, I think, are actually yet to come, because we're changing how we're looking at this workplace development. We're changing from just building teams to building communities. We're changing from a workplace culture that's best for everyone to really one that's best for us. An example that I can share with you is Indochino. It's a custom menswear company out of Vancouver that, amidst a retail apocalypse where literally thousands of stores have closed this year alone, Indochino has grown 400% in the last 4 years. In the last 50 months, they've opened 50 new showrooms, one showroom a month. And when I interviewed Drew Green, the CEO, on my podcast, he says, I asked him, what's your trick? How do you do this? He said, I trust my team. I said, how do you trust them? He says, I give my trust first, and then they can trust me back. So when I looked at this, and I looked at our whole conversation last month, my question is, are you the type of leader that you would want to work for? The answer, I'm hoping, is yes. But the second question is, are you giving trust before people can expect to trust you too? Are you giving everyone a paintbrush and allowing them and trusting them to do the best they can? If we're going to optimize our community, we have to feel like we matter. And for that, I want you to give everyone a paintbrush. See, today we talked about little 1-degree shifts. We shifted from simply just building a team to building a community. And when we better understand the community that we build, we can better optimize that experience for them. See, when we try and be everything to everyone, I'm going to suggest that we become nothing to anyone. When we try and be everything to everyone, we end up being nothing to anyone. I think that's so important because a team can attract anyone with the skills and requirements to do the job that are aligned in the mission of the company. But a community has a deeper sense of connection with each other, fellowship, of belonging, and trust. And today we talked about focusing on who we're attracting. It's easier to identify in the community than a team, and not what. Talking about who that individual is, what they value, where they spend their time, how they like to go about doing their work. Maybe it's 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Maybe it's 7 to 7. Maybe it's on the weekends. Maybe it's any version of how they like to do their work. When we can align people based on who they are and not just what they can do, we can build a community instead of a team. Something deeper. When we truly plant our flag because we're proud, it's intentional, it's confident, it stakes our claim in the ground, and really is unique to us, that's when people can start to understand who it is they should be working for. And for the people that are there, for those who we can give a paintbrush to and allow them to feel important because they are making a difference, they are coloring in that canvas, and they are impacting our organization at a deeper level, I think great things can happen. See, in 72, we went to the moon last. It was a 236-kilometer journey one way, nearly 500,000 miles return, 12 days, and an incredibly successful journey. Had that space shuttle been off by 1 degree at takeoff, we would have missed the moon by 2,100 miles, or twice the diameter of the moon. See, these 1-degree shifts, I think, are really small. But when we truly understand what it is we're trying to build, we intentionally define what those words are so that we have common language that's happening between each other, and we focus on building just a community instead of just a team, I can assure you that our best days are yet to come. And if there's anything I can do to help make that true, please, I'm happy to help. So with that, that concludes our working session. I do have a few moments for questions, if there are any. I'm seeing the first question here is, how do I optimize a remote team? I think the answer to that is to understand that when we're more transparent about what that experience is, about what that community is, that the community doesn't have to be face-to-face 5 days a week from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. I think we can have this community that is proactively developed by meeting expectations. And if by that I mean it's largely going to be transactional, then that's fine too. Just don't overpromise what this remote team is going to contribute, experience, and feel when they're a part of the bigger picture. The second question is, we're in a more traditional industry with less flexibility. Does this advice that you talk about still apply? Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are looking for those Instagrammable jobs right now, and in some cases, people are looking for stability and security. They're looking for tradition. They're looking for the job that can allow them to live a life with their family or not, and build something that they want to build. I think we like to suggest that everyone needs to be entrepreneurial, that everyone needs to be this top creative, that everyone needs to be a leader. And perhaps I'm going against the grain in saying this, but there are a lot of people that I even personally know that love to get the job done because someone else has told them what to do, that don't really like thinking outside the box and are really good at executing on whatever it is that you want them to execute on. And so know that the world looks 7 billion different ways to each of the people that experience it. And to paint work with one brush and think that everyone needs to be, feel, act, look a certain way, I think is ridiculous. When we build our intentional communities that are diverse in who we are, that are inclusive in what we can do and how we treat each other, that are rooted in belonging and psychological safety, that I believe that it's not for everyone. In fact, I would say that it's not even for 90% of people. But when we're looking to attract these next individuals, it's important, I think, that we do it one at a time, so that we understand what community that they're going to be a part of and allow them to be a part of that picture. I think if we're looking to attract these people, so often we see that people will apply, then they'll meet with the recruiters, then they'll meet with HR, then they'll meet with senior executive, then maybe even the CEO, depending on the size of your company. And then they'll get inserted into a team and realize 2 weeks later that they weren't a good fit. What I'm seeing now, companies that are doing this very successfully, is that the first meeting, once they've found out that they're qualified and they have the skills and the requirements to do the job, the first meeting is actually with the team. And if the team and that prospective individual thinks that there's going to be a good fit, knowing that they're going to spend more time together than they will with their families, then they move on to senior executives, HR, and just to make sure there's almost a rubber stamp. And I think that's, I'll leave that for that one, for that question. And the last question I've got here is, do you have a list of the 39 most commonly applied for jobs? That was a Gartner study that was done. I'm going to look into that for you, and if you wouldn't mind even just sending me a note on LinkedIn or just sending me an email, I can follow up with you there. But here we are at the top of the hour. We are done session 2 of 3. If there's anything I can do to help, please reach out. Check out the podcast. Connect with me on LinkedIn. But until next time, thank you so much for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful afternoon.
Ladies and gentlemen, this does conclude today's event. You may now disconnect your lines.